Hey everybody, welcome to another Third Line Day episode. Today I have with me here my friend Sara Castro from Arizona, and she is a reflector, a 3-5 reflector on the right angle cross of the vessel of love. And happy to have another 3-5 here with me today. We just this morning we were still in the third line, and we just crossed over to the fourth line, I think in the last hour or something. So I was like, oh shoot, 2-3-5s on a third line day, that would have been perfect. But um, anyway, well, welcome, Sara, and great to have you here, and um, great to discover a hard to find unicorn in the human design world, one of our magical reflectors. So, but anyway, it's a pleasure to have you here, and I've always appreciated your presence, and at least you've taken a class with me, and I always appreciated how you showed up there and some of our interactions. So, thanks so much for being willing to expose yourself here and on my little YouTube video.
Well, thank you for the initiation. You can't really fully express the reflector experience until somebody has reached out and initiated us. So I appreciate your recognition.
Hmm. Yeah, I've had a lot of reflectors show up in the last few years, and been able to do a bunch of reflector readings, and really get to know reflectors in some new ways. And we were having a conversation a few months ago, and I remember feeling really uh, it I don't know, it was very subtle, but it stuck with me because I remember, I think I was asking you, do you track the daily transits or something like that? And you're like, yeah, I used to do that, but now I just am. And I really felt into that. Um, I don't know, just the experience of that. I really felt into that, and gave me at least touching that essence of what it must be like to be a reflector. We don't meet a lot of reflectors who are so deep into their experiment, and it's rare to meet an awakened reflector. So it's it is rare. So it's good to hear from someone who's been in their journey for a few years, and how it's evolved. And um, but before we get into any of that, maybe you could just tell us, what's your life like? What's your daily life like these days? And how has it, I mean, we say reflectors don't have a lot of consistency in their life. So, um, but maybe over time you've been able to track some kind of consistency. I mean, let's see, not only do reflectors not have consistency, but your personality sun, which I'll pull up here in a minute or two, is in the 15th gate, gate of extreme rhythms in the third line. So, um, what's your life like right now?
So my life, okay, so right now, the only consistent thing that is showing up for me is the support of me existing. That's it. Um, from the opportunities that I get to the work that I'm doing, all of it is very inconsistent. I did have my own little massage practice, and my body just couldn't keep up with it at all.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, I finally just closed the door on that. I do provide house calls for a couple of the people that I appreciate working with, something that's like reciprocal, where I get some energy and feedback back. But as far as having income, it's really whatever comes along, random. Okay. It could be helping someone plant plants in their yard, to cat sitting, to helping our handyman lay some tile, to do a cranial sacral session, to doing a human design overview. So all of these things are things that I know that I could step into for a short amount of time when I do have the energy. And so far, it seems to be working out. I do live with my mom. Um, so we live right on this like little bend, and three doors down from the right, my other sister lives there, and three doors down from the left, my other sister lives there. So
Mm,
I am very much in the center of my community, um, albeit tiny, but it still works. And I think through my trial and error process as being an amplified person, uh, expressing all the dysfunction around me, the people in my life really understood that I was different, and have in a way made adjustments and space for me to do that. And
mhm,
I don't think that my reflector process or my human design exploration would have had enough space had that space from my community not been provided. So I think I'm in a very, very lucky place, considering all the stories that I've heard about other reflectors, all the stories I've heard about three fives, um, and just in general, where we're at in the world right now. So um, I think that that's the a little soundbite of where I am right now in my life.
mhm. That's interesting. Being a 3-5. Well, we all have these different places in ourselves, which can can feel like a dilemma sometimes. You know, you're a right angle profile, here to know yourself, and you're a reflector who's here to know the group. You're a 3-5, which does better with strangers, and you live in a, you know, in your grounding, um, consistency. What we're talking about is your family. So, how does that feel being a 3-5 that typically does better with strangers, but you're in a family kind of environment?
For me at this point, living in this environment is like a launching pad. It's just a place that I could come, I can have communion with members of my family, get rest, have shelter, get food. And then something will happen, some kind of movement, and I'll go out into the world alone by myself. I have a really hard time going out into the world with someone by my side. It's like, I know you want to come with me, but I gotta go by myself. So that could look like a variety of different things. It could be a trip to the coffee shop or the grocery store. It could be, a trip to Colorado or California to house sit and to just be solo, to have that experience alone and see how I dance with the strangers that are part of my fractal.
Hmm.
Sometimes it's a deep connection, other times it's just an utterance of a few words. And it's almost like there's this interesting exchange. It's like, whoa, that shifted something in somebody. I have taste cognition, and sometimes I can taste the mutation. It's a very specific taste. I don't know what to, I mean, it's like asking someone to describe, how do you describe mustard? It's like, oh, like it's just, it's there, and it's fun to watch, but it's also very nourishing for me to have a safe space to retreat that
Mm.
has the things that I need.
Can you taste the mutation from a distance?
Um, I don't know. I haven't explored that too much. Um, Partially because I really prefer in aura connection.
Hmm.
And I haven't really had much of an online presence. I did just start posting on TikTok as of this past August. Um, and that has been full of surprises, very cool for me, love it. But I haven't really explored too much.
Mhm. Are you exploring that avenue as like presenting yourself as a reflector or? Mhm,
Yeah. So it's specifically oriented towards human design and reflector content,
mhm.
but
What's been
mainly my perspective. So I always have to put that in as a 3-5 so that, it's almost like an insurance policy to have these disclaimers.
mhm, mhm. What have been some good surprises that have come from that?
Um, I think the biggest, most profound is one, getting to see myself, getting to hear how I speak and how certain things hit me, um, how I articulate them, and then to see the people that it touches, the fractal that it hits. I feel like the algorithm is another version of fractal lines, which is also very cool. Um, but another thing that I've found is watching TikTok and participating in TikTok is almost like having the finger on the pulse of humanity. There's a really cool way of being able to honor my like right side environment, body, in feeling comfortable, but yet looking at this window of the world and seeing what's out there. Without having to get like too involved or sucked into it. It's perfect. I'm sampling, in like
Mhm,
60 minutes to 3-minute bites, which is perfect for me. But
60
yeah,
seconds.
yeah, 60 seconds.
Mhm,
But yeah, definitely how I express, who comes into my comments, and what it's doing for, I think, the 2 or 3 reflectors that I've kind of like attracted, and how cool it is for them to feel the relief of feeling like they're understood, even if it is
mhm.
through a 60-second soundbite.
I'm sure.
Mhm.
I mean, how many little quotes have just changed our life or inspired us? Or yeah, that's great to hear. I want to ask something about what you were saying a minute ago, and kind of come back again. But when you said when you like to go out by yourself, is that is that part of your process to meet someone one on one? Like usually when I say we talk about projectors, I know a lot of projectors like to get people one on one so they know who they're penetrating, who they're what they're seeing into. So it's a clean and kind of like a clean auric interaction. Is that part of it for you when you're meeting people to um, to have a clean interaction, or is it more just maybe like a 3-5 bonds made and broken? You just need to go and just be free, so nothing is influencing you or changing any of that for you.
Yeah, I think to be free, so nothing's influencing, but also the bonds made and broken, absolutely. But also just to like kind of shift from this one-on-one projector auric experience to the more bigger picture aspect of being a reflector, in being able to be clean in my own aura, in my car or in transit to wherever my destination is, and then to step into this environment and feel it, and feel, that creepy man in the corner, or the barista that's super artsy and has this expression for life, and to kind of get a very rounded taste of what environment, like what is going on here. Is this an environment that's gonna allow me to settle into my reflectorhood and
Mm,
to unfurl from the conditioned restrictions, or is this going to be the environment that makes me fall right back into like a not self? And then based off of those assessments, either staying and amplifying it, or maybe going on to the next place. And that's fun for me. That's where I think the reflector really gets to test the parameters of what they're capable of experiencing as themselves.
I can totally see that. Wow. It's beautiful to it's just beautiful to feel that process. That have you done a lot of traveling in your life and gone to a lot of different environments where you really got to explore that process?
Yeah. So, what I've found throughout, I think I've been to 12 or 13 different countries. Um, and throughout that process, I have discovered that I really like to be in one place for a month at a time.
Hmm.
I think that's where the rubber meets the road for me and where I get to see the authenticity of the actual environment. You know, a lot of times people travel places to get away from their life or to have a vacation, and that's fine. But also, those places that are taking people in at, a week at a time are curated to distract the individual from their life. So it's kind of like you're stepping into a stage and you're playing the role of the tourist, and you get to eat the like good food that's only available there, and you hear kind of the folk music that's there, or you kind of get a taste of the customs. But when you stay for longer than a week and a half, 2 weeks, it's like you really get to experience the texture. You get to hear about the village drama and taste the different foods that maybe aren't on that curated menu. You get to see how, people interact, and also you get to see these tourists come in and go, and how revved up they are and trying to hurry up and do all the things. It's just like, it doesn't seem like a vacation. But anyways, yeah, I love to travel, and it's been a huge part of my process as an adult.
Hmm. Hmm. So you'll kind of ground out somewhere for a while and then do a big trip somewhere.
Mhm. Mhm.
Where have been some of your favorite places, or the people in
Um,
different places?
so some of the my favorite places, um, I've been to Guadalajara, Mexico, loved it. I was only there for a week and a half. That was several years ago, but that's somewhere I would like to actually experience longer. Um, I was introduced to Corfu through Nisarg. I've done a
Hmm.
couple of her reflector retreats,
Hmm.
and the last two times I've gone there, I've stayed about a month. And I think that's where I really discovered, like, oh, yeah, this is way more my jam, especially if you're going to be spending 12 hours on a plane. It's like you need a couple days to decompress. And so Greece has also been one of those places, Spain. Um, yeah, I think yeah, those are the ones that are at least coming to me right now. I am dry kitchens, and I am not attracted to humid places. Like, everything feels congested. I end up breaking out. Like, all the tropical places I've been to, which are quite a few, um, they're not for me, unfortunately. They're not for my body.
Well, Arizona, Colorado, you're in the right part of the planet, and
Totally.
suck the moisture right out of you.
It's so good.
You know, what happens to your hair when you go to those places?
Not too much. I mean, I have pretty straight hair, so nothing really influences my hair, to be even hairspray. I mean, I could curl my hair and put so much shit in it, and it just goes right back. So
It's resistant and sampling.
yeah. Yeah, yeah.
So you have more than one reflector guide, or you primarily consider Nisarg your kind of your mentor?
Yeah, for sure. She's definitely my mentor. Um, at times we joke like that she's my daughter and she's my mother. You know, she is my grandfather and she's my neighbor. And that I think that that's maybe a quality of the reflector that just shows up and she'll mirror that right back to me where it's like I am her mother and I am her daughter. And it's really funny to watch that dynamic. I mean, I haven't seen Nasarg in a couple of years. Um, and I also haven't had a good discussion with her in about a year, I think. But she will always be this, I don't know, cornerstone of my exploration and experimentation and just like I don't want to say cheerleader, but just a general like encourager of, hey, this is being a reflector. And it really just comes down to waiting and watching and surrendering and dancing with life.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So you've done a month-long reflector retreat. It was only reflectors there?
So for Nisarg's reflector retreat, it's a week long, and yes, there are only reflectors there. Anywhere between 15 to maybe 20 reflectors, depending on how big the group is that year. Um, but she is associated with this little apartment complex in Corfu, little hotel kind of thing. And she's worked it out with the owners so that the people who make us food are only there in the mornings at a certain period, and they're there in the kitchen while we're up in like a lecture kind of sitting space, so that our auras don't interact. And that is about a week, so nobody else is allowed on the property, in order for the aura of a reflector to kind of unfurl and be comfortable within the spaciousness of uh, being.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
It seems that that's really a big part of the reflector experiment is, yeah, finding the right people to be with. Environment and people are everything, but also settling into your your own aura and being comfortable being in your own aura. And it seems like you're getting more and more comfortable experimenting with that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I did end up doing my own solo reflector retreat, where I got to sit with myself for a whole lunar cycle. And yeah, I mean, I thought I knew myself, but like really dancing with the transits, and in this case, particularly the moon, um, really showed me how incredibly profound and unavoidable uh, the transits have on reflectors, on me at least. I mean, I only say reflectors because that's the keynote, is to wait a lunar cycle, to uh, watch how you process and taste things. But for me, I mean, that wasn't just a little tagline in a book. That was something that I got to embody and witness and just completely have all of my ideas blown out of the water by the the choicelessness of it all and the beauty beyond the fear of
Mm.
this idea and limitation. Oh, you have to wait a lunar cycle. And people get all mental about, well, what does it mean if I can't do this and I can't do that? And once all that kind of mental chatter dissipates, it's like, oh, I'm here to be moved by the transits. I'm here to embody the transits. No other type is here to embody the transits the way the reflector is.
Absolutely. How long were you into your experiment when you took a month
um
solo?
I was pretty deep in it. I mean, it was fairly recent. My human design process has not been linear at all. I go in, I go out, making and breaking that bond with my experiment as well. Um, and I met human design in 2012. I went to my first human design gathering in 2014, and I think I'm pretty sure that's 100. Well, I mean, I can't be 100%, open head. There's no such thing as certainty with me, but um, my first decision that I made that was correct, and got to feel that frequency of what correctness is through my
Mhm.
body and how life is pulling it, was in 2016. um so yeah, and then in 2019 I uh did my solo retreat, and now it's 2023.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, so over 10, 11, 12 years or so. That's great. So yeah, it sounds like it was about 7 years you did that.
Hmm.
Nice.
Hmm.
I would love to take a month to myself and do a retreat, reflector or not. Um, well, let me bring up your chart here, just so people can see what we're looking at. This is Sarah's chart. And so as a 15-3, you also have the love for humanity. Do you, how do you, this is actually my only conscious channel too. This is my chart down here. So this is my only conscious channel, this 15, and I also have the 15-3. So I can relate to that. How have you experienced your love for humanity, also in the context of being part of a vessel of love? Because I asked that specifically because being a vessel of love, to me, this is your incarnation cross, um, is a lot about self love.
Hmm.
It seems like vessels of love are here to learn really how to love and accept themselves. So that's why I asked that in that context of loving and accepting yourself, but also being someone who is attuned to the patterns, the patterns that connect us as humans.
hmm. um yeah, well, I mean, I think that a lot of my exploration in regards to my incarnation cross has been looked at through the juxtaposition of being not self and transitioning into a more authentic, aligned version of whatever this chart is, the self that's in here. Um, because as a child, I hated humanity. As a child, I hated myself, hated my body, hated that I was here. Like, there was no love in this cross for me. Uh, that was the not self aspect. Everything in this chart has the opposite side of the coin involved. And depending on how that's spinning, that's kind of be our kind of perspective. So for me, noticing that I'm kind of, or that I have been coming out of this hatred into this love has been one of the best surprises of my life. And then to also at the same time see this love, watch it emanate from me, see how it interacts with other people, um, uh, is another really cool aspect. But with the 15, the extremes, I notice that I attract a lot of extreme people. Um, I mean, when I say extreme, I mean like uh I'm not talking about the person that likes to wear purple hats on every Monday. I'm talking about people who are experiencing psychosis, people that are trying to leave abusive relationships,
Mhm.
people that are looking for the love that they know is out there, but don't know how to access it. And as I continue to fall deeper into the lap of my incarnation cross, there's more of this expression of acceptance and love. Not only am I able to love myself, but when I love myself, number 10, integration, I'm also empowering others for them to love their self. Um, there are times where I notice with the 15, like this extreme, like if there's a dysfunction or if there's something that's holding up the flow or a perversion of some sort, it's very much cut off their head. This is done. Like, this is no longer serving the flow of life. Like, talking about the obstruction earlier with your dog, you want to kind of get in there before it becomes a real issue. And part of this incarnation cross mentions this, like, very, like, off with their head kind of energy in order for the collective to continue to be supported.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's I love getting to know this this channel and this gate, and it's very yeah, it is a form of love for sure to help people align to the patterns that will bring them to themselves.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
As and the way you say it too, thanks for sharing that, by the way. That's really touching, actually, the way you explained all that. And really, I can feel that. I can feel that vessel pouring out of you and the way you explain that for yourself. And I just think, yeah, it's very special to meet someone who is holding that role as a reflector, to learn to love yourself and to help other people love themselves. And as a 3-5, it's become more and more apparent to me how third line life is, it's a process. And it starts off quite messy, but we tend to focus on the messiness and the bonds made and broken and the trial and error, and more and more for me, it's all of those things are about the wisdom and the development of learning wisdom on the material plane over time. Anything third line is a process that matures over time. So it's nice to hear that that's evolving for you in a way that is bringing you towards deeper into self-love.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And it's very much, I human design is fantastic. It's been the teacher that I've always wanted in regards of um showing me the way to be myself. I think that that's always been something that I've wanted. But due to the nature of uh, how our parents were conditioned and uh, the things that they were taught, it just, in a way, I feel like I was conditioned to mask as a manifesting generator. And, there's nothing wrong with being a manifesting generator, but when there's nothing consistent in a reflector's chart, to put that upon my body was extremely detrimental for myself. So being able to surrender to the 3-5 process in the practical application of trial and error in order for me to discover and attune and find grace within the development of these skills, and to really allow myself to get my hands dirty and to give myself permission to make mistakes. That has been one of the best teachers that human design has given me. And if anything, I think that it's important to remind all 3-5s that that is very much the process. Is go ahead, dig in the mud, go ahead and scuff up your pants. Like, what is it that you've discovered? And I think that there's such a fulfillment of anybody's signature when the discovery has been made in a practical way. I have such a hard time listening to other people telling me what to do or how not to do it. And it's usually all just, yeah, okay, sure, just give them the like yeah nod, and then I'll instantly watch myself turn around and have to experience it for myself. um so yeah, it's I think it's such a fun profile at this point, but at the beginning, Jesus, what a mental story it created. I think on the 3-5 Facebook profile group, it's also this echo chamber of victimized individuals that really haven't found their footing in their strategy and authority yet to get to the point of these really cool discoveries, which again fulfill the signature of any type.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Being a 3-5, I feel like there's a point where, yeah, it's normally easier just to run away. It's easier to hide, open solar plexus. It complements that really well. I also have open solar plexus, avoiding confrontation. To me, the confrontation, what we're here to confront is this fifth line practical solution that we're here to bring through our own trial and error experience. But most 3-5s don't get to that point because there's too much projection, or the projection works against you, or we're just used to being exiled or misunderstood, or a lifetime of disappointing others can be hard. So I think at one point we have to realize I do have, maybe mission is a strong word, but we have a role to play. It's the costume we wear on our, yeah, to fulfill our role. So what is your practical, do you feel like you have something practical that you're here to deliver? Is it just as a vessel of love to help people find that self-love amidst in a world of self-hatred, or do you feel that there's another gift that you're here to deliver a practical message that you've learned the hard way yourself over time?
um No, I think at the beginning, yes, the like idea of having a purpose and going out there and expressing it has been something that has always been there. I think that that's one of our really big conditioning factors, is this idea of purpose. Whereas when I surrender to myself, when I surrender to the process of waiting, watching, trying this, finding the practicality in that, um, it, I become me. It's very, very evident that I am not doing life. I am not providing the purpose. Life is doing me. Life is expressing whatever purpose I'm there to express when my mouth opens and words fall out, just like this, I guess, third line exchange that we're having right now. None of this has been fabricated or planned, as much as my mind wanted to at the beginning, to like strategically talk about what we're going to talk. I mean, none of it's just coming out, and it's coming out through these open aspects, where wisdom is developed by the experience of life, and whatever comes out is that, and whoever hears it is meant to hear it. And it could be a couple of words I said and it helps somebody, or it inspires or initiates or sparks something that I have no idea about. But I mean, the fact that we're just having this conversation and that life brought us together, that's enough for me, you
Mm-hmm.
know?
Mm-hmm. Looking at your chart here, one thing that's kind of jumping out at me, I mean, there's lots of things that jump out, but one thing in this moment that's jumping out at me is your wide open heart center, and how you have um, yeah, all the gates on the other side pointing at your wide open heart center. how's that been for you? I mean, does this feel like a lot of pressure coming at you to, or because it's wide open, it's kind of like it passes right through you in terms of
Uh,
feeling like you need to prove something in this world or push yourself to be someone in this world?
yeah, I'm like, I mean, I don't know if I work through that, but I navigate this ego sensation and frequency every single day, and the best mantra that I have in my back pocket is from a lecture. I don't remember which raw lecture it is, but he basically says people with open egos, undefined egos, they're basically on a cosmic vacation. And
With
it's
a
just like,
with a wide open ego, or
I
just in
don't know if
general?
he said if it was just undefined or if it was like completely open.
Hmm.
But it doesn't matter because I took it and I ran with it. And as someone with the undefined ego, um, I say that all the time. Like whenever I feel like, oh my God, I have to prove myself, or oh my God, I have to be secure in my material exchange throughout the tribe, or whatever it is, whatever mental story there is. I just constantly come back to this, like, hey, I'm on a cosmic vacation. I don't have to prove any of this. And I even recognize, I even see myself making promises. And it's just like, wow, like my most recent promise that I saw myself make was, I did an overview. It was like 2 hours long because once I get into the flow, you know, it just keeps going sometimes. But I had told the person, yeah, I'm gonna write up a little thing for you, like some notes about what we talked about. While I have written it up, I still haven't like gone over it. And it's just like I can't like it, there's no energy to send it at this point. And I have to like remind myself, I'm like, yeah, you made a promise and now you're not able to fulfill that promise. And now I'm just in like this space of waiting to see what happens next.
Hmm.
I don't know if that like answered your question, but I mean, yeah, I'm not here to prove anything.
Hmm. Well, that kind of comes back to one of the first things I was saying about what really touched me when we talked a few months ago was is is your process of settling into that as a reflector. You don't necessarily need to look at the daily transits. You said you used to do that, but you're not doing that so much anymore. You're able just to really be sensitive to the transits, whether it's the moon or anything going on in the transits altogether, and and not be so strategic, not be gosh, what is your variable by the way?
PLR, DLR.
Okay, so you do have a strategic some strategic brain and mind there too, but in a receptive environments.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Uh yeah, so how does that work, being having a strategic mind but being open to the transit flow on a daily basis?
So at first, when I first learned about human design and first learned about the reflector process, I got so incredibly mental around it. I printed out blank charts, I got the keynotes, I tried to like put my chart into these blank charts where it transits the moon. Like I just got really wrapped up in it. And all of a sudden, it's like this mental pressure, this heat coming off of my head was just like, wait a second, like human design is oriented around being embodied. It's around the intelligence of the form and what happens when we give ourselves enough space from the mind to see what the body is receptive to and what the body is capable of developing. Um, and it was at that point where I just like let it go. And my whole like lunar charting was posting things on Facebook, writing little memos, doing little voice notes, and always making sure to like have a timestamp or like what gate the moon was in. And, the idea was that I could go back and check it out and see what frequencies were being exchanged once I had the energy to do that more strategic dance. Um, and I never have had the energy to go back.
Hmm.
Uh, but again, I mean, it's through this lunar retreat where I really got to see, like, oh shit, like it doesn't matter all the intellectual keynotes that I can put on the transits. uh that takes us out of our body. What matters is that I am here to move with the program. And I think that's where I kind of saw that, as a reflector, I feel like I am but a leaf upon the river of the Tao. Sometimes I end up in a very still pond. Other times I'm flowing down a little babbling brook or a raging waterfall. And the whole thing for me to remember is that it's all transitory and it's all for me to just take in. I don't have to intellectualize any of it. And it's through this process of embodying these attributes where my system processes it
Hmm.
for me, so that when it's time to express, these things have already been threaded together by the awareness of my system. And I think it's great to kind of know, to have these keynotes. I love it. I still play around with doing a lunar journal. I did a little Canva journal of how the moon transits through the body graph, and it has it in sequential order of the mandala. And I do still play with that. I notice I play with that, but that wasn't a mental thing. That was more of my strategic capacity to really organize as I'm learning about more specific things in human design when the time comes. So I know that sounded a little contradictory, but I mean, yeah.
No, it actually, I really feel your outer authority. I really love the way it feels to hear your outer authority being expressed.
Cool. Thanks.
Yeah.
I'm not doing it.
And that actually surprised me to hear, just to even to hear the frequency of the outer authority is something like, yeah, it's something like you said, you can taste it, you can there's a you can feel when someone's speaking from their lifetime of experience, and the outer authority is coming through.
Mhm. To me, it kind of seems like it has this rhythm. Like there's I don't know, but yeah.
Do you Is talking things out a very important part of your process?
Yeah, yeah. I have people in my life that I'll exchange voice notes with.
Mhm.
And sometimes I see that it's just a valve for the pressure of the mind, kind of let it out. And then other times it's like, okay, yeah, there was some traction there. There's something there. I'm gonna keep on exploring that. And generally speaking, throughout my experience in deciphering what is correct for me or not, is if it's still around, if I'm still talking about it, if it's something that's still like pulls me. I don't want to say lights me up, because some things don't light me up, but it's clearly pulling me into a direction. It's my body doing it. That's how I know that, yeah, it's time to either get into that particular cycle or get into that tasting room to explore and uh find out what works.
Mhm. That's great. Um, let's see. Well, I'll probably start wrapping it up here. It's been really great to hear from you and your perspective. Any last things you'd like to share? Any good 3-5 stories? Any
I think that would like require another segment. So But
Maybe
yeah,
like an anonymous segment where we
yeah,
can't
yeah, yeah,
quite see
yeah.
your face.
Three Fives Anonymous. I love it.
Three Fives Anonymous, yes, yes. Stories from our teens and 20s, which we don't want anyone else to hear about.
Yeah. It's good stuff though.
Hmm.
But yeah, I don't really have anything else other than thanking you for pulling some of this stuff out. Again, reflectors need to be initiated to, see what comes out for them to be surprised. And I don't know, for you to get a glimpse into the reflector world. I'm sure that reflectors are very different from your perspective. And I'm curious, did you learn anything new about reflectors during this?
Not so much new, but kind of like just settling into. I feel like I'm a very empathic person, and where that's coming from, I don't know. Is it my open head? Is it my open solar plexus? It could be my openness. It just could be, I've spent 25 years doing body work and healing work for people. So I've been really close. I've been really in a lot of auras very closely. So I feel part of my just personal experiment has been just feeling people, feeling their energy and tracking the energy, and whether it's the not self or the true self or certain talents or tendencies, and really being able to track and name and empower those energies. And so I in my human design experiment, I want to get to know all the different types, and have and live and cooperate as in one family of humanity. And so, yeah, hearing you talk about your experience as a reflector, and really being open to the transit field, and open to the program, and I love the way that feels, because I feel like you do speak with some authority about that. So when someone speaks with authority, it just comes right into me. That's the power of outer authority. Mental outer authority can really, uh, it's it's authoring. You're right. You're programming. It's authoring something is like programming something. So I can I can taste that also, right back in a way. Where anywhere we're wide open has a reflector tendency to it too. So I don't get very. I know type is very specific and creates our aura and everything, but we all have generator, reflector, projector, manifester aspects inside of us. So it's helping me find those reflector places inside of me, which are just sensitive and open, and um, and stay open and not just conclusive,
Mhm.
because it just keeps changing. So yeah, we all have those reflector places inside of us. So yeah, and maybe it's my only completely open center is my head center. So maybe I feel like the correct conditioning from that, because I feel like my open head center it's open to any kind of inspiration. And so when someone's speaking with outer authority, that's really a very nourishing. It feels like delicious for me when I feel someone speak with outer authority, especially reflectors and mental projectors. Having two open head centers and a wide open head, when I feel that authority coming through, it's so nourishing, and feels like the correct conditioning, which I really I recognize it and I appreciate it.
Yeah, yeah. It quenches that thirst that I think our spirit really is lacking in today's modern uh place, space, and time. So yeah,
Hmm.
I'm happy that you can see it and that you've responded to pulling it out, not just in me, but in everyone else that you're interviewing,
Hmm.
um, chatting with, discussing, and yeah, it's cool to see how this is going to unfold for you. So
Thank you
yeah,
so much.
thank you,
I feel
Peter.
like gosh, I feel like I could ask you a million more questions, but I want to respect your energy and our time. So maybe we'll save it for another time or
For sure.
see where it continues in another way. One last question is, are you are you open to um, more interaction and sharing on your, like you said, your TikTok page, or um, are you open to people asking you questions that come from this video, or
Yeah, absolutely. If you are involved in the TikTok sphere, I know that it's a polarizing thing. Um, my tagline or my, I guess, is embodied fluidity. Um, and yeah, feel free to check out whatever content I've put out so far. There's several videos. Um, and as far as for people who aren't, I'm not really on Facebook that much anymore. I do interact with Messenger a little bit. And I guess like my email address, which I can have Peter tag it below, at diviningstillness .com or diviningstillness at gmail.com. So, but the first one I said is actually my website. So there's not very much content on that either. Maybe I'll feel pulled to post some stuff once TikTok, I don't know, starts to disintegrate. Who knows what's going to happen with all this stuff. So, anyways.
well, you feel like you have a lot of wisdom to share, and I feel that comes through in your presence. So, yeah, here's Sarah for love of humanity.
The rose
um,
in the dump. It's like a tagline Raw used for Cross of the Vessel of Love.
mm,
Yeah.
yeah.
Anyways, thank you again, Peter.
Isn't that your middle name?
That is my middle name also. Yeah.
I don't know how I knew that. Maybe it
I
was
don't
a.
know how you knew that either. I don't know. Maybe it's
Um,
on my Facebook or something.
I think it might be something where I saw it. I don't know why. Maybe it just came out. All right. Well,
All
thank
right.
you so much, Sarah. Have a wonderful day, and thank you all for checking out the video and making it this far. All right. Bye for now.